We'll also be working with the hands and feet again. And what I wanted, so I'm going to have to close my eyes because I started this energy when we did the meditation. It's very hard to have my eyes open as that energy is coming through. So we're going to be working with the hands and feet, and for part of it, and that does a lot to really work the diaphragms and work the breathing motion through the whole body. For myself, I really enjoy that, because when I start doing that, my breath kind of doubles. It's really big movement of the diaphragm, the big opening of the abdomen, big opening of the lungs, and then it just becomes much deeper and longer. And I can feel it through the whole body. And what I've talked about a lot, but haven't really had a very good way of teaching, is that what is happening in the muscles with holographic breathing and with our normal breathing is kind of the polar opposite to what we experience. On the in-breath we experience the lungs are opening, the abdomen's opening, everything's opening. On the out-breath we experience everything's closing. On a level of the muscles which are creating the breath, and now that we're using the hands and feet, it's not just through this whole area, through everywhere, through the limbs, through the whole body, is the muscles are shortening on the in-breath. So there's a tension, there's a closing, there's a contraction of the muscles on the in-breath. And then there's a relaxation and lengthening of the muscles on the out-breath. So it's opposite to how we experience it. And luckily this was still blown up from 2 weeks ago. It's just been sitting in a corner. So like with the abdomen, the muscles of the diaphragm above and below are contracting to produce the abdomen expanding, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So there's this contraction. We experience the expansion, there's a contraction to produce that. Then there's a lengthening, the diaphragm separate and everything contracts. We feel the contraction, but actually what is causing that is the lengthening, allowing that to come back in. So through all of the muscles, there's a shortening and widening, a lengthening and narrowing, and that affects the whole body. There's a shortening and widening on the in-breath and a lengthening and narrowing on the out-breath. And we feel that through the whole musculature of the whole body, right up around the cranium, all of the muscles of the face. What holographic breathing does, it brings that to life, because that wasn't happening in the face before. But as soon as this suckling motion starts, that activates through the face, through the cranium, through the neck, and then through the whole torso, the arms and legs. But when we do it actively with the hands, feet, arms and legs, then that becomes a whole body sensation through every muscle. So each muscle is shortening and widening on the in-breath and lengthening and narrowing on the out-breath. But within that, every cell in that muscle is shortening and widening on the in-breath, and every cell in that muscle is lengthening and narrowing on the out-breath. So that is happening through the physicality of us to create the breath and a deeper and slower breath. And I think it's how the baby breathed in the womb. For the baby to progress and form in the womb, I think it centers around the original matrix and how we grew in the womb. And especially, you know, the lungs aren't doing a big breath in the womb. It's more likely that breath is more just of the abdomen, and that's how I experience it. When we're using the hands and feet, the breath is much more strongly in the abdomen. But that starts through every cell of every muscle, through the whole body, as an impetus to breathe in and then relax and breathe out. And what I want to bring you to tonight is not just that in the muscles, but that in the organs. My experience of it is that it isn't just in the cells that create the breath in the lungs and abdomen. It's in every organ. I experience it strongly in the brain. All the cells in the brain, they all have a skeleton. Every cell has a skeleton. Every cell has muscles. You get this breathing motion within all of the cells, and that creates the breathing motion through the brain, which is in line with how the muscles around the cranium and face are moving the face and cranium. That change breathes the cranium, and then within the cranium, the brain is mirroring that with the intrinsic inner motion of the cells of the brain. So I've talked about it a lot within the brain, because that is one of the way I've healed Lyme's disease, but also within every organ, every cell. They can't just expand in all directions. Every cell is like a balloon. So breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So the cells in the organs will be shortening and widening, lengthening and narrowing with all of the other cells. So we're kind of moving again into an area that I know nothing of, just moving into it in a felt sense. Who knows what's actually happening scientifically, but in a felt sense, to get used to the breathing motion of every cell. And every cell does have organs. They do have, I think it's a mitochondria, I think is thought of as the lungs for each cell. So you can breathe the mitochondria, I don't even know the name, I haven't looked it up, I wouldn't even think of saying that word, but I think there's something like that, is the breathing organ of the cell. So we'll be breathing with the mitochondria in every cell. Every cell, I think they're called organelles, something like that. Every cell has organs, every cell has fluids, every cell has a brain. The brain of every cell is the nucleus. And in the same way as our brain, there are cells in our brain. Within the nucleus of the cell, there's the DNA. So the muscles start breathing, and for me, the organs fall in line with that. The cells in the organs breathe, you get this breathing, recuperation, healing of every cell. Within every cell, the breath, the organs, the brain, the cells breathe. I can't help but think that that can bring profound health. Every organ, every cell has its connection to the earth. Every cell has it, through the DNA, through the nucleus, this connecting to the higher energies. Through the heart, the breath of every cell is connecting to the lungs and heart. Through the bones, muscles of the cell, the deep organs, more connecting to the earth. So there's this holographic nature opening within us. So we're going to work with that. See, I didn't have a clue what I was going to talk about, but there we have it. That's what we're going to work with.